Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Shannyn Lee, who's the Director of Coaching for the Win Without Pitching Business Development Training Program. Shannyn, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Hey, me too. And just as a way of introduction, it's really interesting that when your publicist reached out to me to have you come on, I was like, okay, hey, hold up. That's Win Without. That's Blair. I've read this book by Blair, a couple of years ago, and I just love it. So I was like, oh, what a cool way to go deeper and further. So I'm really excited to talk to you today. Give us a little bit of your background, and then what exactly is the Win Without Pitching Business Development Training Program?
Sure, you bet. I'm glad you enjoyed the book. It's definitely changed lives for a lot of people, me included. I met Blair probably about 2005, 2006, and I was doing sales or business development for a brand and marketing agency in Seattle. So I have a background in agency sales over the course of the last decade or so. And then prior to that, I was on the client side, and I worked for companies like AT&T Wireless, Safeco Insurance, and I managed communications teams, marketing, investor relations. And so I've been on both sides of it and really understand, what clients are looking for when they're hiring agencies and what agencies are looking for when they're looking to see if it's a right fit client.
And isn't it really interesting, and again, without diving into the weeds and doing a whole 4-hour masterclass on the book, which would not even scratch the surface, I know, but isn't it interesting that at the crux of the matter, it's the messaging, it's the clarity, it's the conciseness in telling exactly what your company does and even setting expectations. So speak a little bit about that from the perspective of being clear and concise, and that actually is doing a service for both parties.
It is. You're exactly right. And positioning your firm is really fundamental business strategy. It's really setting the vision for who you're going to serve and how you're going to serve them and create as much value as possible for that client. So it's really important that you do specialize in an area and that you are clear about the market you serve and the discipline you provide, so who you help and how. And further, your perspective on how you approach this work, how you bring it to bear, what your beliefs are in terms of how this client is going to need to engage with you and let you be the expert in order to really unlock the right amount of value for them in whatever initiative it is that they're bringing to you. So it's where it all begins in our mind in order to set you up to lead in the sale and then lead in the engagement.
Well, one of the main things that I observe is when you're thinking about this methodology, it is all about the fact that you're not the only one pitching. Right. So they're probably entertaining 2, 3, 4, 10, however many proposals and pitches. You're not the only one. So how are you going to stand out from your competition? And many times, yes, it's your area of expertise and your competitive advantage. Yes. But to fully communicate that, there needs to be a clear and precise and concise way to deliver that. And that then sets the stage for then working together, because then you don't want to have scope creep and win the job and then go, oh, and can you guys do this? And you need to have that tone set from the beginning. So speak a little bit about how you're able to set yourself apart from the competition with this mindset.
So with this mindset, as I was saying a little bit, it does begin with positioning. So just as an example, we are a sales training firm for creative professionals, right? We have a market and a discipline that we really specialize in. That allows us to be viewed as different. Like you said, options are what really matter. And it allows you then, when you get into conversations, to really have a conversation to see if you can help to really guide that prospect through a series of questions to understand their vision, to understand, okay, who's the team making the decision? What kind of investment are you looking to make? What's the time frame? It sets you up to come at it from a place of confidence, which reassures that prospect that they're talking to a firm that can really take good care of them and handle the challenge at hand. And that opens up then trust and confidence in being able to talk about money, frankly, more easily and more transparently as well.
And when you're explaining that, my mind was going to the fact that you're going to be typically working with people that are pitching on larger type projects, right? So this is not like, oh, hey, I'm doing this $99 thing, so let's take you through this process. No, these are large projects. And my thought would be this. What do you say to someone that would say, wait a minute, hold up. These people are high level and they don't have time for all this stuff. I can't ask them all these questions and what do you feel about and what is your process for and, tell me how much you're looking to invest. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, these questions are intrusive or they don't have time for it. What do you say to someone that would say that?
I think if you're talking to a potential client and they're not willing to answer questions and really give you a true lay of the land, that's a red flag to me, because that tells me a lot about how they might behave if, in fact, you do win the work. Yeah. We both have to come to the table with good intentions and full transparency to really understand, hey, are we a good fit, and can we solve this problem for you, and are you going to meet us there to make sure we have what we need as the agency that you're hiring.
And I'm sure this is a cliche example, and maybe Blair even mentions in the book, and maybe this is where I'm remembering it, but it's kind of like going to the doctor's office and skipping over the nurse and the triage person and the person taking your blood pressure and asking questions and just going right to the doctor going, I have pain, give me a prescription. He's like, hold up, I don't even know where it hurts. It doesn't matter. Just give me I need a solution. Well, you have to go through the process, and somewhere through the process, whether it's the nursing staff or the doctor, they are going to ask some questions because they need to understand what the problem is, and then they need to understand what you've been doing that's worked or not worked so that the prescription can be given. And isn't that really what you're doing? What you're describing there is, it's that setting that tone. And if you had, haven't we always seen those shows on TV, like the doctor shows, and here comes the new doctor, and they're like, what are you, even 12? Do you even have a doctorate degree? So you have to establish that authority and expertise and position from the get-go. And that starts from the proposal and asking the right questions and being intuitive and active listening. So am I thinking correctly in that respect as well?
Yeah, you are. Like, it's one of the win without pitching proclamations. You have to diagnose before you can prescribe a solution. It's just, it's the rules of engagement.
Yes. And what is the saying about malpractice? Is that, am I thinking something there like, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, something like that?
Yeah, it is our professional obligation, of course, for a doctor, but we view it equally as seriously when a client hires you. It's your professional obligation to understand the problem and be able to solve it from a place of information and data and something that is correct, right? So that you're not causing more problems by just doing what they want you to do, forcing you to follow their process.
So when someone comes in to work with you guys, what is the typical issue, problem, stumbling block that you're noticing in the firm that you will address first with them?
It depends. I will say often it ties back to positioning because they are a generalist firm and they're finding they are not standing out amongst the competition, or they're losing based on price, those sorts of things. The other thing that happens is, for that creative professional, and I think for a lot of people, honestly, selling and talking about money often is just very uncomfortable. And so they're needing to have a framework and a process and something that they can rely on each time they're in a selling opportunity to serve as a guide and help them understand, like, what are the questions I need to ask? Then what do I do next? How do I drive a next step? And really building confidence in the sale. So it could be a positioning problem or it could be a sales process problem. And then pricing, obviously, is a big deal. And a lot of people come to us to help figure out how to increase their prices and charge what they're worth.
And you mentioned the word confidence. And I think that that's an underlying tone or an underlying factor that is not taken as seriously as it should be, because when someone is confident, they then are able to ask these questions and guide the process in a more powerful way, because they know the outcome, they know what they're bringing to the table. And isn't that then a factor too of what you just said of raising prices? Because, I can't charge that. Well, hold up. I've seen this client, this client, express this result of what we've done. So yeah, I'm worth X. So speak a little bit about how confidence plays into the positioning and everything you teach.
Definitely. Yep. Confidence is probably, just to your point, like the biggest thing I'm working on with my clients, because with confidence, you have the ability to trust your gut and speak up if something doesn't feel right in that sales conversation. If you think the problem that client thinks they have isn't really the problem. If you're confident, you speak up and you slow things down, and you're able to ask a lot more questions and get that client focused on being comfortable as well, that they're in the hands of somebody who cares and is an expert. Confidence also allows you to say no more. It allows you to sniff out those opportunities that you know are not a good fit, and instead of getting emotionally attached and going down the path that's not going to end well for either you or the client to be, you're able to say, you know what, I just don't see a fit this time around, but it was great to meet you, and let's keep the door open for future opportunities where we might be better aligned. So confidence gives you a lot of abilities to do things in the sale that you normally wouldn't do because it feels uncomfortable.
And this might be just like a sales 101 type question, but how do you balance being confident and really strongly recommending a certain price when you know as a salesperson or an owner that you got to make the sale? You got to make your numbers, and this one right here. So it's the whole, I don't know that this is right, or I'm an expert, and I'm going to see if you qualify for this program, all those little, approaches. But how do you balance that with, we got to get this thing. I don't have 19 other sales in the hopper that, if you don't take this, so what, you'll come around later and whatever. But there's that, like the old saying, like a dog can smell fear. Well, you don't want to have commission breath when you're working with prospects.
That is a very real problem. And when you're in need of business, you need to make payroll, whatever the situation is, you become very emotionally attached to the sale. And that's where bad behavior in the sale shows up, and you give concessions and you assume things and don't ask questions. And so we work really hard to help you emotionally detach and to understand what are the motivators that are causing you to maybe give in or bring bad habits back into the sale. Do you have the need to win? Do you have the need to be liked? Do you have the need to make payroll so you're feeling desperate? And we ask our clients to give themselves 20 minutes before a sales conversation and bring to life something we call the Jedi mindset, which is a bit of a mantra that they say to themselves to just get themselves calm and focused, name what it is that's causing them to feel vulnerable or anxious or, go into that convince mode, release it, and recognize that, you know what, I know that's my bad habit, but I'm going to put that away for now, and I'm going to go in with confidence and also understand that not everybody's a fit, and that is okay, because we want to work with those who believe what we believe and who are going to allow us to do our best work. And so there's some kind of mental judo that you're doing with yourself, and giving yourself that time before each sales call, and then equally giving yourself that time after each sales call to assess how it went, is a really helpful process to improve each time around and calm yourself down and get yourself focused.
Because I guess it's kind of like anybody you work with, if you sat them down and said, okay, I want you to think about what is one of your nightmare clients you've ever worked with, right? Let's talk through that, and let's have them relive nightmare, and maybe possibly if you can tie the fact that maybe you should have exited from that well before when you brought them on. So maybe that is an aspect of the, we're looking to qualify. We're going to ask you these questions in the discovery phase. We're just going to see if there's a fit. And maybe that would help the confidence to say to some people at some point, you know what, I just don't think there's a fit. And even though you might not feel like you want to say that because you could probably close the sale, but think about that nightmare time. You don't want that again. So I think that's a really good way to frame that, right?
Definitely. And it all always comes back to that first conversation, that qualifying conversation. And I love how you worded it. You start those conversations by signaling and just saying these words, hey, it's great to hear from you. I should let you know right away, we do things a little differently. So there are some questions I want to ask during this conversation to really see if we can help you and really see if we're a good fit to work together. So hang in there with me, because I have a lot of things I want to learn to make sure that, if we move forward, it's a really good, productive use of both of our time. If you can say those kinds of things to signal to people, this is going to feel different than other sales conversations you have, it helps everybody involved. And it is your obligation, because oftentimes when things are not going well after you've won the work, you can tie it back to problems that happened in the qualifying conversation early in the sales. Yeah,
there's that little red flag or that little pit in your stomach. You're like, I'm just going to ignore that. But now maybe the next time you're going to go, okay, there's that thing again. Let's move on.
That's what I mean by trust your gut and speak up.
Yep. Okay, so now let's shift into maybe like a 30,000-foot view, vague case study. Because I know when you think about RFPs, there's a lot that goes into it. And you've got to do, estimating and pricing and proposal and all these things. And there might even be several people in the process. I know I've got a client that, has 2 and 3 and 4 people in the process of pricing and numbers and calculations. And then you get to the end and there's a certain percentage that go, okay, thanks, we'll keep it in mind. And it's like, wait a minute, did you just take our intellectual, property, recommendations and like, wow, that doesn't feel good. So is there a time that you could evaluate an RFP and say, I can almost like project into the future and go, this one's not going to work out because, or how do you keep the once everything is in the discovery and the conversation, the questioning is like checked out. Now, when you're looking at the guts of the RFP, is there ever a time that you can say, you know what, let's hesitate on this, or let's dive in deeper to clarify before we fire up all of our whole team to put this thing together? Because there's real time and cost involved in that.
Yeah, and while we would love to just eradicate RFPs from the world, we know that that's not possible, and we know that you have to enter into them sometimes. And so if you can't win without pitching, right, if you can't like derail the process altogether, there's a series of steps you can take. But the first thing that I want clients to do when an RFP comes across is for them to ask the question, why us? Why are we included in this RFP? Because you want to know, are you one of many, or were you included because you're viewed as an expert or because somebody referred you? You want to get a sense of what power do you have in the sale? Do you have an inside track at any level? Or are you just one of 100 because they Googled and it's really going to be a price competition and, driving price down to the bottom, and that's who's going to win. So that's the first question. And then you have to be a good detective, right? You have to listen and decide, okay, well, you learn why us. Okay, well, let's take the next step then. We don't typically respond to RFPs, and just embrace silence and see what they say.
And depending on the industry, you have to respond to RFPs. Like certain industries, that's just the way that it is. And there might be government or RFPs that go into the government, which is a whole other world. And there might be RFPs that are to private agencies, which is, a different, angle. But I really liked the point you make there, which was in the book. I, of course, remember that. But why us? And what if they said, we are required by our board of directors to get 3 bids and you're one of the 3. So we need a bid. Thank you. Well, now that's a whole different feeling than you were, we hear about you in the industry, you were referred to us, and then we did a Google search on some of the things that we know we need for this project. And everywhere we look, you're the go-to. You're the one that is guiding the thought, and you're all over the place. So that's why we're talking right now. That's a whole different ball game and a whole different feel than just we need one more box to tick with a bid, and you're in the rotation.
Yeah, it is. And if that's the case, like if you're on the list because you're viewed as the expert, and okay, we can't get around responding to the RFP, then you want to start to do some things to see if you can gain the inside track somehow. So you want to see if, hey, can I get access to the team making the decision to ask them some questions. If the answer is no, okay, well then could I send over a needs assessment for that team to fill out so I can get a sense of where everybody's head is at with this to see if everybody's on the same page. You can also try pushing back on the problem itself if you don't think that the problem is really the problem. You could ask to present first, to present last, to have them back when we could meet, in person, come to your office. So what you're trying to do is just kind of see what they're willing to give, see where they're willing to demonstrate some behavior that you really might be viewed differently. Yeah. The other thing I would say is if you still just have to follow the rules and you can't affect the process, then at least look everybody in the eye on your team and say, win or lose, we have each other's back and we're going to go for this. We don't love it, but we think we have a shot. But regardless, win or lose, we have each other's back so that everybody is at least on board together and feels supported at the end if it doesn't go in your favor.
And I think another factor to that is maybe to flesh out the prospect's position viewpoint on pricing. So, for instance, if you could drill in and go, look, if you knew that we were the 100% solution to what we've been discussing, if you knew that, kind of give me a gauge on where your budget is. And what if they say $1 and you know that your fee is going to be $5? Well, you're way out of the ballpark. But if it's like they say $1 and you know that you're at $1.75, then it's like, okay, hey, we know that we can make that work. So I think that maybe some of that that mindset, like we talked about, the confidence, huge. And I think that also some of your that's kind of the focus on some of your workshops or your boot camps. So let's kind of wrap up with, when someone is hearing this going, we want to win without pitching and be seen, in the right light. What are some of the workshops and boot camps that you guys provide that can come in to help support that?
Yeah, sure. We run what we call a virtual workshop, which is a 4-day, 3-hour session each day that goes deep into the 4 conversations that happen in the sale. So qualifying, value, closing, we get pricing and proposals, and we help you learn some real skills to take back to the office the next day and use. The other thing we do are these boot camps that are 6 weeks in length. It's a sprint basically around positioning your firm or pricing, going deeper into pricing strategies and how to really embrace the value conversation on a deeper level and move the needle through 3 option proposals. So those are some ways that you can come in and get further training aside from just our private coaching products that we offer.
Well, Shannyn, I think that we have really covered a lot of wonderful ground. Thank you so much for coming on. Really good diving into some of these deep concepts. So let's now, what's the best way that people can reach out, learn more about Win Without Pitching and some of the workshops and boot camps, and even if they've not read one of Blair's books, to pick those up as well?
Yeah, the best place to go is winwithoutpitching.com. There's a section on the 2 books that Blair's written, the Win Without Pitching Manifesto and Pricing Creativity. We also have a YouTube channel you can access through our website, and you can ask us a question, and Blair and I will answer it through the YouTube channel. So I encourage you to do that as well if you have some things you'd like to ask. Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on, Shannyn. It was great to talk. Thank you, Mike. I enjoyed our time.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.